The boardroom gleamed with polished mahogany and floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan skyline sprawling below like a glittering chessboard. Ethan Caldwell, billionaire CEO of Caldwell Tech, leaned back in his leather chair, his sharp blue eyes glinting with mischief. At 38, he was the picture of success, tailored suit, chiseled jaw, a fortune that could buy small countries. But today his focus wasn't on acquisitions or stock prices. It was on a bet. Marry her by the end of the month. Ethan, smirked Julian, his oldest friend and corporate rival, lounging across the table. That woman from the coffee shop. The big one. Do it, and I'll hand over my stake in quantum dynamics. Ethan chuckled, swirling his whiskey. You're serious? Her. Dead serious, Julian said, his grin sharp as a blade. You've got charm, money, looks. If you can't make it work, maybe you're not the golden boy you think you are. The woman in question was Lila Monroe, a barista Ethan had seen at the corner cafe near his penthouse. She was impossible to miss, not because of her size, though she was heavy-set, but because of her laugh. It was loud, unguarded, the kind that made strangers smile. She wore bright scarves, her curly brown hair always a little messy, and she had a habit of sneaking extra pastries to kids who looked hungry. Ethan had noticed her for months, though he'd never admit it. Fine, Ethan said, shaking Julian's hand. 1 month. I'll marry her. And when I do, quantum's mine. Lila wiped the counter at Brood Awakening, her hands steady despite the lunch rush. At 32, she'd long made peace with her body. Curves that spilled over like a Renaissance painting, a presence that filled a room. She wasn't invisible, though people often assumed she wanted to be. Customers were kind enough, but their eyes sometimes lingered with pity or judgment. Lila didn't care. She had her books, her tiny apartment filled with plants, and a knack for making people feel seen. When Ethan walked in that afternoon, his crisp suit clashing with the cafe's cozy chaos, Lila raised an eyebrow. He'd been coming in more often, always ordering a black coffee, always leaving a tip that could cover her rent. Today he lingered. Busy day? He asked, his voice smooth as silk. Always, Lila replied, sliding his coffee across the counter. You slumming it with us commoners again? He laughed, a sound that felt practiced but warm. Maybe I like the company. She snorted, unconvinced. Men like Ethan didn't notice women like her, not unless they wanted something. But his eyes held hers a beat too long, and for the first time, Lila felt a flicker of curiosity. Over the next week, Ethan became a fixture. He asked about her favorite books, Toni Morrison, always, her dreams, to open a community center for kids, her life, messy, but hers. Lila was skeptical but charmed. He listened, really listened, and when he asked her to dinner, she said yes, half expecting a catch. Dinner was at a rooftop restaurant, the kind with a waiting list longer than Lila's reading list. Ethan was all charm, sharing stories of his tech empire, but Lila noticed the cracks, his guarded smiles, the way he dodged questions about his childhood. She told him about hers, growing up in a small Ohio town, her mom working double shifts, her own quiet rebellion against a world that told her she wasn't enough. You ever feel like you're playing a part? She asked, fork poised over her dessert. Ethan paused, his wineglass halfway to his lips. Every day. Then why do it? She pressed. You've got everything. Why keep up the act? He didn't answer, but something shifted in his gaze. Vulnerability, maybe, or recognition. By the end of the night, he was hooked, though he told himself it was just the bet. The courtship was a whirlwind. Ethan pulled out all the stops, private concerts, weekend trips to Paris, a diamond necklace that cost more than Lila's childhood home. She accepted the gifts, but never the flattery, always calling out his slick lines with a laugh. You're trying too hard, rich boy, she'd say, and he'd grin, loving the challenge. 2 weeks in, he proposed. On a yacht, under a sky bursting with stars, he dropped to one knee. Lila froze, her heart pounding. Why me? She asked, her voice steady but searching. Because you're real, Ethan said, and for the first time, he meant it. The bet felt like a distant memory, a stupid game that had led him to something he hadn't expected, her. Lila said yes, though doubt gnawed at her. Men like Ethan didn't marry women like her, not without an agenda. But she saw something in him, a loneliness that mirrored her own, and she wanted to believe. The wedding was a spectacle, splashed across tabloids. Billionaire weds barista and fairy tale romance. Julian smirked at the reception, whispering to Ethan, "You pulled it off. Quantum's yours." Ethan's stomach twisted. He hadn't told Lila about the bet, and the weight of it was starting to choke him. They honeymooned in Italy, where Lila's laughter echoed through cobblestone streets, and Ethan found himself forgetting the boardroom, the deals, the games. She taught him to cook pasta from scratch, her hands guiding his, and he realized he was falling in love, not with a bet, but with her. Back in New York, reality crashed in. A gossip blog leaked the truth. Ethan's marriage was a wager, a billionaire's whim. Lila found out from a coworker, the headline screaming from a phone screen, "Caldwell's cruel bet, barista bride upon." She confronted him in their penthouse, her voice shaking but resolute. "Was I a joke to you?" "No," Ethan said, panic rising. "It started that way, but Lila, I swear, it's not like that anymore. I love you." "Love," she spat. "You built this on a lie. How am I supposed to believe you?" She left that night, taking nothing but her pride. Ethan was gutted, his empire meaningless without her. He tried calling, texting, even showing up at the cafe, but Lila was done. She moved back to Ohio, to her mom's small house, where she could breathe again. Months passed. Ethan threw himself into work, but it felt hollow. He missed her laugh, her warmth, the way she saw through him. One day, he found a letter she'd left behind, tucked in a book. It was short, written in her looping script. Asterisk, "You're more than your money, Ethan. Be the man you pretend to be." Asterisk. Those words haunted him. He tracked her down, not to win her back, but to make things right. In Ohio, he found her running a small community center, funded by her own savings and donations. Kids swarmed her, their faces bright with trust. She was still Lila, kind, selfless, a force of humanity. "I don't deserve you," Ethan said, standing in the center's doorway, his suit out of place among paint-splattered walls. "But I'm here to make it up to you. Not with money, with me." Lila studied him, her eyes wary but not cold. "You hurt me, Ethan. Trust isn't a check you can write." "I know," he said. "Let me earn it. However long it takes." He stayed, not as a billionaire, but as Ethan, volunteering at the center, washing dishes, teaching kids to code. He was clumsy at first, out of his depth, but Lila saw the effort. Slowly, they rebuilt something new, not a fairy tale, but something real. She taught him kindness. He gave her the courage to dream bigger. One evening, under the same starry sky where he'd proposed, Ethan knelt again, not with a ring, but with a promise. "I'm not perfect," he said, "but I'm yours. If you'll have me." Lila smiled, tears in her eyes. "You're late, rich boy, but I'll think about it." They laughed, and in that moment, Ethan knew. The real win wasn't quantum or the bet. It was her, and the man she'd helped him become.